Nah, it's okay. Paul and I just signed up for 3 Mondays in a row of the Publix cooking school. They're going to be doing vegetarian dishes. I had to counteract all the hot dogs. And we're excited about that. We've been to a few of the other classes. They're great. They're just Tampa. Yeah. They're so much fun. Uh-huh. Yeah, you had a lady from Tuscany a few months ago, and we had seen her. She had actually come to where we live here in Brooksville because her mother lives there, and did a cooking course, and she's just great. I mean, Emerald. Huh. Ooh.
It was like a chicken Alfredo with sausage. Yeah, it's sausage. It's like weenie with cantaloupe and sausage.
Wow.
And spinach. It was good.
That sounds good.
Well, you think, oh, cantaloupe, but it melts down and you just
And
get
that
the
little
juice.
meat, you got
Uh-huh.
a little pepper in it.
Yeah.
It was good.
Wow. I like it. Okay, I need the mix again. The Fabry base.
Have any of your machines in the old stadium over there?
Steinbrenner, George Steinbrenner. You want to pot us back up, Ken? We're up. Someone just mentioned George Steinbrenner. God bless him. He's the reason we're here in Brooksville, Florida. My old factory was a block and a half from Yankee Stadium. It was 40,000 square feet of worthless space. It cost $80,000 in taxes a year, just the city taxes. The heating bill was $100,000 a year to heat that much building. And it was a murder-weak neighborhood, and so it was just a disaster. And I was just dying to get out of it, but you couldn't sell it because the neighborhood was so bad. George, in New York at the time, there was a big brouhaha going on about building a stadium on the west side of New York, west side of Manhattan, which is just so overcrowded as it is. Filling it up on Sundays with traffic was going to be insane. And the politicians went back and forth, and politicians are politicians. They needed something to show, look what we did, you know, something big and flashy. And so while this is going on to build the new Jets stadium, George Steinbrenner, who was always threatening to leave New York, knew that it wasn't going to go through. So he quietly goes up to Albany and says, I'll tell you what, I'll build you a stadium for free. You just give me $1 gazillion for the neighborhood. You know, nothing's for free. And so then the West Side Stadium fell through. Steinbrenner's there 24 hours later to save the day by building a new Yankee Stadium. And so they jumped on it and they said, great, and that's how that got built. Well, we got the word out about a week before anybody else did that Steinbrenner was going to build the stadium. And so I said, well, you know, we ought to give it a try and see what happens. So I put my building up for sale. And sure enough, somebody connected with the organization that was going to do a whole project bought it to be a parking garage. It was 3 floors of concrete, 16-inch concrete. They don't do that today. And we had our own parking lot. So all they had to do was put a spiral in the parking lot, and all of a sudden they've got a 3-tier parking garage near Yankee Stadium. So we took the money, ran out of New York, moved all the equipment down here. I built this, designed it to our specs. And that's how we got here 6 years ago. 6 years ago last month. And all because of George Steinbrenner. Otherwise, we'd still be stuck in New York. So it's been great. Now we're going to make a gelato. We're going to make a mocha chip gelato. And let me get the ingredients going, and then I'll explain what we're doing. But I do it. It's going to be a better gelato than you've had anywhere in Italy. One thing that I notice, speaking of the Bronx, you know, I always ask people, because they come back from Italy, they come back from Florence or Genoa or wherever, and they say, oh, the gelato, it's the best ice cream in the world, there's nothing like it. And I go, well, let me ask you a harsh question. Where does a Heineken beer taste better? On a Caribbean island, Montserrat, walking down a beach with an ice-cold Heineken beer, or the exact same beer, same temperature, walking down 170th and Jerome with the subway over your head and some guy, you know, even the flying rats, the pigeons are coming up to you and say, hey, mister, give me a quarter. Where does that beer taste better, the Bronx or the island? It's the same beer. So you got to put in a little bit about, you know, where's your location? Food tastes better on vacation. There's no question about it, because why? You didn't cook it. So you didn't have to go through all the effort. What do you mean, what's for dinner? No dinner. Okay, we're going to use, I put down 14% mix. We're actually going to use 10%. And let me go get that. True Italian gelato is between 6 and 8% butterfat, but I like to make it a little richer, so I use a 10%. It's just going to give it more body, less iciness. But here's the real thing about gelato. This, as we've talked about this morning, is ice cream mix or ice cream blend. It's milk, cream, sugar, and skim milk. That's basically all that's in here. And that's the way Americans make ice cream. There's lots of dairies around right in this area. There's at least 2 that you can choose from, maybe even a third one over in Orlando. And you can bring in all 3 dairy products and try them and decide which 10% or 12% you like the best, you know, because they're going to arrive at those percentages by different formulations. So when I'm picking a mix company, I go first by taste. Which one do I like? Well, the one I like is about 50 cents a bag more than the one I don't like. Well, for 50 cents and I like it, I'll pay it. So it's quality, it's price, and then it's the people I'm dealing with. I'm going to give this mix company about $30,000 or $40,000 a year. I better like them. By that I mean, up in New York we had 2 different places selling mix, actually 3, but I dealt with 2 of them. And one of them, the owner realized that, oh, you got a bad winter and ice cream isn't selling as much. I'll tell you what I'll do. Your mix bills, will cut them in half in the winter and we'll expand them, you know, in the summer. In July and August, you'll pay 1.5 times just to make up what you owe us. And that's really nice of them. That's fair. The other mix company, also in New York, if you were 5 minutes late on your bill, he sent Bruno back out to break your kneecaps. Bruno's a busy guy. And I don't want to deal with people like that. If I'm giving them that much money, I want to like them. You know, they don't have to come for dinner, but they at least have to treat me reasonably in business. So that's my 3 criteria. But that's how we buy dairy product. This came out of the cow pretty much yesterday or the day before. It is really fresh stuff. Now here's what the Italians are selling. Nice bag. You know, it's real pretty. There are cattle cows, you know, eating what you eat in Italy, but there aren't a lot of dairy cows. In Argentina, there are a lot of Italians and there's a lot of cows, and so their dairy product is milked out of the cows in Argentina. It's then sent through a machine that was invented by a friend of mine's family, Henningsen Foods, called a spray dryer. And they take the liquid product, this beautiful, fresh liquid product, they ram it through a series of screens and turn it into a powder. They then ship the powder in big, huge tanks over to Bologna, Italy, and then they package it up in this nice foil package. And then they ship it to the Port Elizabeth of New Jersey, and then they ship it to you out in Ohio, and they say, okay, now take this powdered ice cream and reconstitute it in a bucket with water, and then you got to repasteurize it because it hasn't been pasteurized since you reconstituted the water, and then you can turn it into gelato. Now you tell me how that is better than this, which came out of the cow yesterday. There's just no way. Here's non-fat dry milk. It's got a nice picture of a cow on it. That's a nice product. But if I've got a choice between non-fat dry milk and fresh milk over in the dairy case, I'm going to give my family fresh milk. It's the same thing here. Why do I want to use this just because it came from Bologna, Italy? So did the Fiat, as a matter of fact. Why do I want to use this when I could use fresh dairy products? So that's why I say right off the bat, I'm making a better gelato than the Italians because my base ingredient, milk, cream, sugar, and skim milk, is a higher quality. Ken, did you lose something? Okay. So we're going to use this fresh dairy product. Now, the Americans don't make, we make great mint chip, Oreo cookie, strawberry, raspberry, every flavor you can imagine. But we don't make flavors like mocha or fruta de Bosco. That's a fancy name for mixed berries. We're going to do that, I think, later. We don't make hazelnut, Zabion's vanilla. We don't make these exotic flavors, so the Italians do. So there's two companies, there's Fabri and Pre-Gel, and they are, without question, the very best. If you want to make great gelato, you use Fabri or Pre-Gel. Yeah, Ken?
I was looking for our RPM chart. What's the difference in air content between gelato and ice cream?
What's the difference in air content between gelato and ice cream? Gelato, the highest air content ice cream would be half air, and gelato would be about 1/3 air, or 30% overrun. We have a chart, that's what Ken was talking about. We have a chart that we can send you, or it's up on the internet maybe, that he says yes, that shows you the different operating speeds for the infinite overrun control. It's an approximation, just like how much product to put in. You'll make your own decision. So let me pour this out. So I'm using here, and I spelled it just the way they did in Italian, M-O-K-A, but Ken says that's not English. What is English, M-O-C-A?
M-O-C-H-A.
Yeah, means it's coffee chocolate, isn't it?
Yes.
Okay, thanks. So we're going to use that. Let me get the 4 quarts of mix. Use a bigger bucket. And again, fresh dairy product, you can't beat it. And I don't know how anybody, except maybe a liberal, could win that argument. Yeah, I just had to throw that in, didn't I? It's just shameless. Absolutely shameless. Hey, listen, back during the Kennedy era, it was vote for the Kennedy, vote early and often and vote for the Kennedy of your choice. So it doesn't change much. Okay.
Do you recommend ever using 14% butterfat in gelato?
Sure, why not? The question was, would I ever use 14% in gelato? When gelato first hit American shores, like most everything in food, it came to San Francisco first. And in San Francisco, their idea of gelato way back then, early 70s, mid 70s, was a 16% butterfat. That's what they used to make gelato because that's what everybody was eating. There's nothing wrong with it. So I've got the mix in there. Yeah, and let's see what else. We're going to add 2 ounces of vanilla. I'll use a clean one of those. Vanilla.
Higher in fat than ice cream, that's what I always thought gelato was.
Gelato's lower in fat than ice cream.
Yeah, I always thought it was the opposite.
No, it's not, but it can be anything you want. What you won't see here in gelato that you see with the Italians, I guarantee you, if you look at their videos compared to mine, they're out there with a, I don't know, what's it called, a spectrograph, or I don't know what it is. It's this thing that you hold up, and it either shows you where Venus is or how much sugar's in your product. I've never figured it out. And they're testing it with this, and they're, measuring exactly, to them, the key is they call it artisan gelato. Well, do I look artisan? I don't think so. But I still make a better gelato than they do. So let me guesstimate that one. We got the vanilla in. Now we're going to try the flavor. And I think I'll turn this on to help mix it. There we go. Yeah, about a half. I once sat here once at one of these and went glug, 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 glug as I was doing this. Someone actually wrote in and said, my machine doesn't go glug, 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 glug. I said, well, it's just my own sound effects. You got to be careful what you do on TV. Okay. So I'm going to slow this down considerably.
Why is the reason of
I'm slowing it down because I want to put less air in the product.
so the slower the speed?
The less air. Remember the, if you've got the bowl with the whipped cream, and if you just go like this, it stays, cream, it stays as cream. If you spin it quickly, it becomes whipped cream. So the slower we spin it, the less air. Turn that on. There's a lot of sugar in that product, so this will take a little while. And I'm going to add some chocolate chips because I like chocolate chips. That's as good a reason as any. I made at Penn State University this year Oreo banana gelato. Oh my gosh, the Italians were having a fit. They said, there's no such flavor. I said, there is now. And people loved it. It was a great combination, Oreo cookies and banana. Some speeds this spits out a little bit, like there. We get a spatula. So you can see it's not terribly artisan, whatever that means. It's just going to be heavier. The best way to describe it is, you know what Breyers tastes like, and you know what Haagen-Dazs tastes like. And one of the key differences, besides the quality of the flavor, is Haagen-Dazs is a heavier ice cream. I'm making a real mess here today, aren't I? I'm sorry, what?
Heavier is less air content or more air content?
Which has less?
It says the one is heavier. That means
Oh, the heavier the ice cream, the less air.
less air.
Yeah.
And the slower speed.
Slower speed gives you less air. My father, back in the 60s, was called down to, it just shows you nothing changes. My father was called down to a Senate subcommittee hearing in the late 1950s because some, Langhorne, Foghorn senator was saying that the dairy industry was cheating the people. They're outright cheating the people. They're pumping air into the ice cream. And my father said, well, if you didn't have air in the ice cream, it would taste like lard. And they go, oh, never mind. End of the Senate subcommittee. And like I said this morning, I have yet to hear anybody walk out of an ice cream parlor and say, wow, I really love their ice cream. It's got the best air content in the world. People don't eat ice cream by air content. Yes, it's a factor, but they eat ice cream by flavor. For this mocha, nobody's got better than the Italians. So I'll concede that. Now, besides them being misguided on using a powder, the other problem with gelato and gelaterias, and I've been saying this for 5 years, and it took 4 years to be proven that I was right, and that is gelateria is what we call in TV narrow casting. You're too narrow on what your market is. In the front row, you can't see it, people, but we have 4 people in the front row. They walk into Il Tomsini's Gelateria, and one of them wants Zabbione gelato. Fine. The other one wants mint chip ice cream. Don't have it. The other one wants cherry Italian ice. Don't have that. The other one wants a frozen lemonade. Don't have that. So out of these 4 people, we made 1 sale because we're a gelateria. Now, if we were a frozen dessert business which featured gelato, we would then have those other products all made on my machine plus the gelato. So we would be able to satisfy everybody. Too often, ego gets in the way. You say, I am going to be the best. Steve's wrong. Look at Il Laboratorio in New York. Yes, Il Laboratorio in New York is a very famous gelateria. But I sat down with the president of Cappigiani one day. No, we weren't fixing prices. We were just friends, and he came over from Italy. And I said to him, Gino, how many gelaterias do you think there are in New York City? Let's see, 9, 10 million people, square footage, about 100, Steve. I said there's 5, and by the end of this year, there'll only be 3. Well, now there's basically, just Il Laboratorio. And the reason was the sales were too narrow. You can't just sell. They sell out in the Midwest a product called frozen custard. This machine makes it. It won't sell in New York. It won't sell anywhere else. Out in Wisconsin, their addresses aren't 537 Madison Avenue. It's Northwest 53rd by Southeast 16th. It's geometric places on a cornfield. They've got so much land. They can afford to do a one-trick pony, one product. The rest of the country can't afford to do that. So if you open up a gelateria, you will be very successful in the short run. You will be out of business in 5 years because you don't have enough products for everybody else. Had a customer once, I liked the name. It was 2 ladies up in Darien called Davis, and their names were Davis and Whiteford. And so they called, this is when gelato was just becoming the rage, they called it Davis and Whiteford Designer Ice Cream, featuring gelato. It told you right in the name what they were. They were an ice cream parlor that also had gelato, also had Italian ices, and it was a great idea. And that's the thing. I am narrowcast in my business by choice. I don't build soft ice cream machines. I don't build chicken deep fat fryers. I don't build cabinets. I could do all of this. I have the knowledge and the expertise to do it. But I don't do it because when you think Emery Thompson, you think batch freezers. But I build the biggest variety of batch freezers of anybody in the world. So if you're going to buy a batch freezer, you come to Emery Thompson. That's narrowcasting, but for a specific purpose. But for a food business, we had a couple of guys up in New York years ago called Bob and Ray. It was a radio program. And they used to joke that they had the International House of Toast. And the waitress would come up to you and say, would you like your toast buttered on the near side or the far side? And to me, that's what gelato is. It's a wonderful product. I love it. You're going to absolutely love this. But you can't just sell gelato. And that's why all these companies that I used to compete with are out of, they're not out of business, but they're no longer competing with me because nobody can open up a gelato and survive. It's just not enough products. And again, there will always be the exception. There's only one Humphrey Slocum. Humphrey Slocum's in San Francisco, and if you want prime rib beef steak ice cream, you go to Humphrey Slocum. If you want cactus flower ice cream, you go to Humphrey Slocum. If you want something really strange and weird in ice cream, you go to Humphrey Slocum. Humphrey Slocum isn't going to sell in Dubuque, Iowa. It's not going to sell in Tallahassee, Florida. He is one of a kind in a one-of-a-kind city. But overall, for everybody watching, I have more successful ice cream parlors than anybody else in the industry because we tell it like it is. We tell you what's going to sell. On the back of my business card, when you leave, if you need DVDs, I'll give them to you. The business card says, because I wrote a lot of, Ken, what do they call them? Mission statements? Yes, I've written a lot of mission statements for various churches that I've been in. I'm a pretty good writer. And so when it came to, I decided someday Emery Thompson needed a mission statement. So our mission statement says, to make money and have fun doing it. And that says it all. If you're not going to make money in this business, there's no sense being in the business. Because nobody cares after the first 6 months that you make the world's greatest product, but it's $9 a portion. They're not going to come back. Now that's freezing pretty well. Oops. I think it's going to be really chocolatey. Now, the last thing we're going to make, we have another thing to make, but the last one will be back on this machine. That's going to be a Bordeaux wine sorbet. So I'm going to have to completely clean out the machine. Otherwise, you're going to have a carryover. So I may do I've got chips in there, and I don't want chocolate chips in my Bordeaux wine. Maybe. But sometimes people create flavors and they go, why isn't it selling? Because nobody likes it. I'm looking around thinking of other things to tell you. We have a business up in the New Jersey area that was formed during the first oil embargo of the early 1970s. He had an ice cream parlor out on Long Island, and he noticed that one truck was delivering the tubs, another was delivering the mix, a third one was delivering the vanilla. He said, enough with all these trucks, I'm paying all the shipping costs. So he said, why don't we form a business that sells everything ice cream? And so one truck arrives and it's got the mix and the cups and the tubs and the flavors and everything. Great idea. He's very successful. And you write one check a month and you have everything delivered. It's wonderful. And that's a good ice cream parlor. But a great ice cream parlor, like a great restaurant, knows that you have to pick and choose. You have to find the best chocolate, the best vanilla, the best source of strawberries. And so they're writing 25 checks a month. And they're getting the very, very best because they're picking and choosing from everything out on the market. And that's what makes a successful frozen dessert business, is writing those 25 checks a month. When a salesman comes in here, either me or our engineer sees that salesman, no matter what they're selling, because we don't know what they have that's new that might be unique for us. Give you a strange example. Let me just check this. We buy truckloads of stainless steel, $10,000 at a clip, pulling in on a truck, and you got to unload it. And you always counted on one or two sheets getting scratched. That was just what happened. So that was, at $96 a sheet, you're going to lose some money. So a salesman comes into the Bronx. He says, I've got something new in stainless. I said, what's different in 302 stainless? He said, we have paper between the slices. I said, you're crazy. He goes, no, we are, and now it's the norm. We cover our stainless steel in plastic sheeting so that when you get it, it won't get scratched rubbing against the other sheets, paper between the slices. So now when we get a truckload of stainless steel, they're all perfect. I'm saving, almost $200 every truckload. So when a salesman comes in, we listen to him. If the idea isn't for us, we say no thanks, but at least we know about it. If someone comes into your business and says, I have the world's greatest chocolate chips, and you say, no, I've been buying these chocolate chips for 30 years, I'm going to stick with it. That's fine, but the proper answer would have been, you're a salesperson. You've got to be confident in your product. If you really think your chips are better than mine, I'll try them. And if they're better, you got a sale. And if they're not better, we'll just part company, friends. Now I'm going to turn this up to just speed it up. See how fast that comes out? The Italians take their most detrimental part of their machine, that you can't get the stuff out of the machine, and turn it into their positive. Oh, we can decorate it. That's not good enough for me. Come on. I could wait all day for that. That's some. Let me get a little more. And that's it. Now, I don't know what this is going to taste like, but we'll find out. And that's gelato. It's that easy. It's all in the ingredients. Oh, the question is, do you need a hardening cabinet, flash freezer for gelato? The answer is yes and no. Gelato is at its best for the next 48 hours, maybe a little longer, maybe 2.5 days. After that, let me back up. If you buy ice cream at the store and you bring it home and you leave it out on the counter instead of the refrigerator, and you scoop it tonight and it's fine. You do the same thing tomorrow night, leave it out on the counter, and you do that 3 nights in a row, all of a sudden you notice little ice crystals in it. That's called heat shock, and that's what happens to ice cream. It gets heat shock by changing the temperature like that. The way we minimize that is by hardening the ice cream. We take this, take it down to 30 below zero, rock hard. You couldn't scoop it with a hammer or a chisel, and it'll keep for months. Gelato, we like to serve fresh. It's delicious right now while it's fresh. I'm going to let you try that. But in America, you can't run out of product. You can't, when we go to Cape Cod, if they're out of mint chip, if I was in Florence, Italy, and they said, oh, I'm sorry, we're out of Fruta de Bosco, fine, there's another gelateria half a block away, I'll go there. But if I only go to Cape Cod, like I said, every 2 years, I want my mint chip. And if they're out, I'm going to be really mad, and I'm never going to talk to them again. And that's the way American ice cream parlors are. So if you're going to feature this flavor, you've got to have it all the time. So I wrote an article, and people caught on to it and actually took claim for it and said, I said, yeah, you want to make gelato Italian flavors, but why can't you harden it? Why can't you take it to 30 below zero and then temper it back up and serve it to people? So that's what people do now. That's become the norm, because otherwise, the other reason gelaterias were going out of business, I forgot to mention, is they don't, with only 4 days, or 3 days rather, to sell the ice cream, if they don't sell it all, they have to throw it away. If I had to throw away, so they were throwing away on average about 30% of their gelato. If I had to throw away 30% of all the steel coming into this business, I'd be broken 6 months. I'd be out of business. And so were the gelaterias. So they had to take my method of hardening the gelato in order to survive. So come on up and we'll try this. You're getting full of ice cream, huh? I knew it. Oh yeah, that's good. The problem is I like everything to make. That's a real detriment. Something to scoop with. Let's try this. Did I? Well, this will work. You never thought free could be so horrible. I think a wood spoon is not the great way to go. It's a little hard to scoop. There you go. Yes, that is a word. It is now. Okay.
What about gelato? There's no FDA standard, so it can be whatever you want it to be.
That's right. There are no FDA standards for gelato. It's a name that gets around ice cream and ice milk, so it can be anything you want to make it.
Thank you.
Now, if ice cream costs on average, we used to say 6 cents an ounce. I'm going to guess right now it's about 10. Dairy products are up pretty high, but dairy products go up and down for who knows what reason. So if ice cream is at an arbitrary 10 cents, I would have to say this is probably coming in at 15 cents because that Italian flavor is so expensive. You want to try some, Ken? Oh, you'll have to take this, Ken. Well, we'll send it out to Paul and Vonda.
Okay.
Do you mind taking it to them?
I'll take it.
I'll keep everybody entertained while you're gone. At least I'll try. And I'll do this for you when you come back.
We said what one of those cans be, you think?
You know, I don't know the answer to that. It's got to be at least a third more than American flavors. Yeah, it is. But in the scheme of things, if you're doing, say, 6 or 8 flavors of gelato and 10 flavors of ice cream and maybe 5 of sorbet or Italian ice, it's not too bad. Now, this is going to get difficult. I've got to get into that freezer, and I see that we're completely loaded up. So if you'll all help me, we'll take the sandwiches into the kitchen. Everybody watching on the internet, we'll be right back. Terrific. Wrap that up for the moment. Oh, thanks. Just in the kitchen would be great. Then I can get into that freezer. Okay. What do you think, Ken? Is it good? Oh, good.
Well, let me just say,
Now, is there any way to get anything close to this in Italian ice, or it has to be gelato?
Well, see, that's a dairy product. They are different. But you could use that same flavor. I haven't done it, but there's no reason you couldn't use that in sugar and water. Just like we did the Oreo cookie. The Oreo cookie is an ice cream, but we turned it into a ice. So yeah, that would be great as a, you know what, that's interesting. In New York, probably the number one selling flavor after lemon is chocolate Italian ice. And I used to have, recently I had some around here and everybody goes, ew, chocolate Italian ice, that sounds horrible. It is best stuff on earth. So this mocha would probably make a great Italian ice.
there used to be events with the ice, chocolate was one of the best sellers.
Yeah, chocolate is wonderful. Now we're going to go to the bigger machine. Same idea. You have a drive shaft in the back. That's what's turning it, and we lubricate that with Vaseline or Petrogel. And that's not coming in contact ever with the product. And then we have been touching this, so we have to sterilize this machine, or sanitize it rather, is the term. Again, there's the dasher. They're spring loaded. It's only the 2 blades and 4 springs, so it's pretty simple. And that's going in like that. I just turn it around back and forth until it locks into place. Put on the front bushing, make the cover. You know, people, they try to find something wrong with the Emery Thompson, which is pretty hard. They always point to the knobs. They say, oh, there's 4 knobs and they get in the way. Well, the other machines with the cam action, and I looked into the cam action because I like gadgets and I thought that was pretty cool. There isn't a cam action out there that doesn't break apart after 5 years, and then you have to buy a whole new door. No, we have never replaced the door on an Emery Thompson. So that wasn't that hard, was it? So, and then you hand tight, don't hit them with a hammer. You don't need to. Make sure the gate's closed. And that's it. Now we're going to mix up some sanitary water and I'll use the Sterashine. Those of you who missed the opening this morning, to sanitize a machine, we want to kill the bacteria in the machine. So you can use in its very simplest form, Clorox bleach. 1 cap, not a cup, a cap full to a gallon of water. Better would be to use a commercial product. This is called Stera, S-T-E-R-A, Sheen, S-H-E-E-N, green label. So if you do, and it's made by a company called Purdy, P-U-R-D-Y products. They give us this to put into every machine when you get one, but easy enough to Google and pick it up there. Nice, simple, easy product to use. And let's see. We were going to make blueberry ice cream. However, what I thought was a can of blueberry was a can of raspberry. So what we're going to do is make a mixed berries ice cream, which the Italians call frutti di bosco. Same stuff. So I'm just going to pour this in the machine, run it for a minute or so, 2 minutes if you're from Massachusetts. Yeah, those Boston Red Sox fans, they had to do everything slower, so 2 minutes. Well, I can't help that. But I'm from the world capital of baseball, the Bronx. I don't know, we got to have Boston, otherwise we'd have no one to pick on. So we're going to let that sanitize and let's see the formula. Okay.
Where to get the dairy mix?
Where can you buy the dairy cream mix for gelato? Can you buy it locally? I think they're talking about where do you buy this? In every major city, this is available. Again, we call it by a terrible term, ice cream mix. It's a blend, milk, cream, sugar, skim milk. If you look in the yellow pages in your city, you'll find a place that will supply this. It's sold by fat content, and you want a low fat, around a 10%.
So you would look under ice cream mix or ice cream blend?
I look under dairies,
Dairy.
yes, and then look for a dairy that sells ice cream mix. Or you can do it the old-fashioned way and go to somebody else's store and dumpster dive. That works too. No, we throw the people into the dumpsters. We don't go get them back out. It's uncool to go back and get them out. Okay. So we're going to use 6 quarts of mix, 2 ounces of vanilla, and then some blueberry. And, well, actually, I'm going to use, this is another Italian product, Frutta di Bosco, which translation is wild fruits. So I'm going to use this since I have it, and I also have some fresh blueberries I'm going to throw in. So I need 6 quarts of mix. Close the gate.
Now, you did not rinse it with cold water or any water.
I didn't re-rinse it because I used a light solution of the sanitizer. So I know that I didn't leave any residue that I'm going to worry about. Okay, that's the mix. We're going to add the vanilla so I don't forget. So I'm always forgetting. Vanilla is really nice. It really enhances the flavor of almost everything. No sense putting it into chocolate because you'll never see it. But it works everywhere else. Someone called yesterday and they're going to make ice cream from coconut milk and ices from coconut milk. Great product. Coconut also enhances, especially in sugar water, enhances everything. Okay, now the flavor. I'll start this and let it start freezing. Now, 231 revolutions per minute, that's ice cream. And it's called mixed berry ice cream. Take the speed down to 140, and now it's Frutta di Bosco gelato. That's really the only difference. I'm gonna hit a midway on it, about 170. Turning on the refrigeration. I'm gonna set a timer just to keep me honest. And now let me get my flavor going.
Do you leave the water constantly on in that machine?
The water is turned on to the machine, but it's not calling for any water. It's not using any until that compressor comes on. And then when the compressor shuts off, it got me. That was going to happen. When the compressor shuts off, it'll stop using water. So it's as efficient as the machine can be. Let's see. Running out of utensils. Here we go.
The local one is up there.
Okay, that's good. I'll use this one. Fabry. I use Fabry and Pre-Gel. Now, to liven it up, some blueberries. I'm just going to rinse them out a little bit. These just came in from New Jersey. Paulie got them over at Publix yesterday. Boy, are they sweet. They are really good. Excuse me? Oh, I know. I made the ice cream for the Blueberry Festival fundraiser. We're starting up a National Blueberry Festival here in Brooksville, Florida next year. So I'm just going to dump these in. Again, you can't do that with any other machine. Sadie! Sadie! Come on, girl. There's a blueberry on the floor. Look, here. Here, right there.
Where is it? Get it.
She loves blueberries. Sadie's better known than I am. There you go. Okay. That's it. No, no, come on. There you go. Bye. Now, another way to treat the blueberries, if you wanted to add them as it was coming out, is to sugar the fruit, they call it. And what you do is you put the blueberries in a bucket and you add a little bit of water and sugar and just mix it up and then let it sit overnight. The blueberries will absorb the sugar, which turns the moisture in the blueberry into a sugar syrup. It still remains as a blueberry, but then they don't turn into little marbles. You've had homemade ice cream and you bite into a little marble. Same thing with other fruits. Fresh peaches from Jersey in late August. You cut the peaches up so that they're open. You blanch them first to take off the skin. Cut them open, lay them out on a cookie sheet, and just put a thin coating of sugar over them. Put them in the refrigerator overnight. And they'll absorb the sugar, and then they won't turn into little rocks of peaches when you make it into ice cream.
But that machine would chop it out, so you wouldn't have that problem?
That's correct. But I want to add some peach pieces as it's coming out. And those pieces would turn into little rocks. So I'm going to start cleaning this one because we have the sorbet, the champagne to make. Anybody see what I did with the shelf? No? Okay, it'll show up somewhere. I know where it is. It's in the trash. I put it in there because it had chocolate on it. Oh, brother. I'd have to fire myself.
Now, you just have the shelf there just flat. Why didn't you make it with a lip so it would catch whatever's dripping?
because it wouldn't then hold this, because it would be hanging out over it. And you know, to add that lip, which is not a bad idea, I'll think about that. I know it would add a lot of cost, because anytime you turn up metal on the corners, you then have to solder it. You can't have just an exposed, you know, like here, this has been soldered, or this has been bent and welded, polished, ground. You know, there's probably a half hour in that corner. Because if you just bend it up, then it's like the Japanese or the Chinese make. You know, it's going to catch bacteria.
Right, right.
And we don't want that around dairy product. But that's an interesting idea. I'll look into that. I'm afraid not. It's not worth that much. It's not ready yet. There's a lot of sugar in that product.
What would be like the longest that you've seen, 3 gallons, make 3 gallons? The longest?
Italian ice would be your longest product, and that might be 22 minutes as opposed to 18. Ice cream's always going to come in between 8 and 11 minutes. One little trick. I see there's a blueberry in this container. Buy a spaghetti colander and put it in your sink, so that anything that you're pouring down the drain, it can go through the spaghetti colander first instead of clogging up your drain. Like I can hear there's some chips in here, so I'll pour that through the spaghetti colander. One of my favorite flavors is coffee ice cream. And whenever I'm making ice cream, my attitude is, if I give you a pale pink ice cream and you come back and say, boy, that's delicious, what is it? I've just failed. If you can't tell the taste difference between raspberry and raspberry and strawberry, then I didn't flavor it enough. So with that in mind, if you're a tea drinker, you're not going to buy coffee ice cream. It's just never going to happen. So my coffee ice cream is for coffee lovers. It's for people who think Starbucks is weak. I mean, I actually like Breyer's ice cream. I think it's a great ice cream. And I like their coffee, but it's the best of all of them, but it's still weak compared to what I do. And what I do is I use Taster's Choice freeze-dried crystals. You just pour them into the machine. You got to watch out, because in the container is a 25% off coupon, and that often goes in the machine too. The Taster's Choice freeze-dried crystals will dissolve about 95%. There'll be a few crystals every once in a while, but for a coffee lover to get a little bit of a crunch of coffee, that's great. But there's a secret to making coffee ice cream, because no matter what brand of coffee you use, it's got some bitterness to it. And the secret, oh, by the way, when I make product here, usually I try to buy everything at the supermarket, just to show you that this product is so simple you can buy everything right off the shelf. You don't have to buy anything fancy. We did some fancy things today. The secret to a great coffee ice cream is some Hershey syrup. About 3 squirts of it in this size sheen. As one person said, you'll never taste the coffee in there, but you'll notice that it's smooth. The coffee won't have the bitterness. The chocolate syrup takes the bitterness away. Now, Paula likes these 85% cocoa, chocolates. They're inedible as far as I'm concerned. To me, heaven is M&Ms. And so everybody's different in their likeness, what they like for chocolate. But the Hershey's, it works absolutely perfect.
Like that coffee ice cream, I can drink black coffee.
Yeah.
I can't stand chocolate coffee ice cream.
You don't like coffee ice cream?
I don't drink black coffee.
Huh.
And I just
Well, that's because of all the dairy in it.
disgust
Yes.
You'd probably like, if you ever get up to New York, go to Cafe Ferrara, the most famous place in Little Italy, Ferrara Foods. They make, on my machines, a coffee Italian ice. It'll take your head off. You'll be wired for the next 4 days. They take the dregs of the espresso machine, and they make espresso like mud. And they take the dregs of the espresso machine and filter the water for the coffee, ice through it. And it's great.
So that's real iced coffee.
Yeah, oh yeah, you'll be up for 3 days.
How about that green tea?
Yeah,
I've seen that in restaurants,
yeah, as an ice or an ice cream.
and ice cream.
It's hard, it's not impossible to do, it's a little hard. Only, I don't mean that there's anything mechanically difficult to do about it, but green tea's tough because it's like cantaloupe. It doesn't really have a strong taste. So you need a concentrated green tea. Either brew it very strong or buy a good green tea extract if one exists. I don't know. I haven't made it.
Yeah, I saw it, the extract was there.
I don't know the answer to that. I got a great ice cream parlor in Chinatown in Manhattan called Chinatown Ice Cream on Bayard Street, and they would have the answer. It's not the chocolate that I'm having trouble with cleaning out here. It's the chocolate chips. I kind of hate to put chocolate chips into a machine because a few of them remain in. If they remain in there, they just keep dissolving and dissolving and dissolving. So you don't get clear water coming out. So at some point I'll give up and just say, well, we're going to have a little chocolate in our champagne, in our Bordeaux wine.
Couldn't you just put some stuff on it, clean it out, it's pretty easy to do that?
Probably is. And I may have to do that. We'll see on this batch. No, that's clear. That ran through okay.
I know. That's it.
What's that?
How easy it is to clean them.
Yeah, it is. Well, I don't want to spend all day cleaning something either. So I design it easy. Everybody says, oh, you do all this designing. Have you got a master's degree in engineering? No, I have a master's degree in buying and selling of money, arbitrage. It's really doing me a lot of good in the ice cream business. It was an excuse. I went to school in Rollins, Winter Park, Florida, and anything to stay another year on the beach. Okay, so that's still coming along. This may be strongly flavored. I think it'll be good. And then we're going to make here, Ken, could I trouble you to tell Paula we need the raspberries and the Bordeaux wine? Well, we could. We could use that. I'm not because we're going to eat it right away.
Now, stabilizer is used for what?
Stabilizer just holds everything together. If you were to make vanilla ice cream with a fresh mix, actually if you went out to the supermarket and bought milk, cream, sugar, and skim milk, put it together, froze in a machine, and you harden the ice cream, and then you put a scoop of it and put it on a dish, within less than a minute you'll see a brown ring form around your scoop of ice cream. And it's the moisture, the water coming out of the ice cream. And it forms a little brown ring. It's not the most appetizing thing. It's only water. But it doesn't look good. So the stabilizers, emulsifiers, they help bind it together. Yeah. Any questions? Yes.
Recommend using a stabilizer or manufacturing?
For ice cream, would I recommend using a stabilizer? It really depends on how long I'm going to keep it. Today I'm not keeping anything, so I don't need to. If I'm going to use it for the next 3 days, no, I don't need to. If I'm going to make it today to sell next month, or if I'm going to wholesale, if I'm going to put it in this and take it to a French restaurant, yeah, I'm going to use a stabilizer. It's only a life extender for the most part.
And those cardboard boxes, you said that you line those with plastic though?
The cardboard boxes, if you're going to use them for ice cream, you use them just like this. If you're going to use Italian ices, which is water and tends to leak out more than ice cream would, you line it with a plastic bag. Yeah. Now that's ready. See how you can open it and close it and it cuts off like a knife went through it? And it has a dry look to it? That's a good ice cream. I'll just give it another second or two while I make some room here. Guess what? You get to try another one. See, I told you at 9 o'clock this morning, by 1:30 you're going to be going, oh God, not more ice cream. I can breathe for myself. I don't need no stinking bottle of wine to breathe for me. All right, so we're going to turn off the refrigeration. We're going to open the gate, and there it comes. Push up the speed. Look how fast that is. Isn't that nice? Yeah, there may be some whole ones. It's got a nice color.
Now, this is ice cream.
This is ice cream. But if I'd run it at a slower speed, I could call it Fruta de Bosco, gelato. It shows you how semi-ridiculous it is to make all this hoopla about, having studied at the Sorbonne for, 100 years how to make gelato.
Just charge more for it.
Yes, right. So, I know. Come on up. You got to try this. Let's see what we got here.
Oh, you can smell it.
Now, it's going to taste warm to you because it is. Without any water in it, it's going to have a warmer flavor. The flavor will enhance as we take it through the hardening phase. It'll get colder and actually better tasting. But it's not bad. Now, with your machine over at Publix, can't you just see the raises coming in every time you make this for some board meeting? Just say, oh, by the way, look what I made you for your board
I made
meeting.
a new flavor yesterday. You need to look at Mame.
Mame. What is Mame?
It's a South American fruit.
Wow.
But I had been to Jamaica years ago and they had an ice cream flavor called Fruit Basket, and that's the first time yesterday when I tasted that flavor again.
Wow.
amazed.
Neat.
Good.
Isn't it funny how we remember flavors?
Yeah, I mean, as soon as I pick up this in my mouth, that's it.
Huh. How is that?
Very delicious.
Kind of warm tasting, but, oops, sorry. That's the thing about American ice cream. The flavor will enhance as it sits longer.
Tart too at the same time.
Well, the tart might be the amount of product I put in. Okay, now here we go with the wine. This is always fun. Simplest formula in the world. A bottle of, and I'm going to try this with a white wine and strawberries and see how it works another time. I mean, it should work okay. And then I was talking to a friend who's, she's got a business she's opening in California, of course, called the Drunken Udder. And it's going to be all liquor ice creams. And I was saying, you know, there's some of us like me who don't drink. I can't because of the diabetes pump. But California makes some wines that are not alcohol-free. And I said, wouldn't it be interesting to take an alcohol-free wine and make a sorbet out of it, so that when people are going out to dinner and they're ordering this Bordeaux wine for dessert, you still have something for people who don't choose to drink. Or kids.
Is that what that is, alcohol-free?
No, this is the real thing. So 1 and 1 and the sugar. See how easy it is to forget the sugar? I could have put that in and started freezing.
1 pound.
Yeah.
Is it a longer freeze time with that wine in it?
It would be, except this 1, 1 and 1 isn't a full batch. So it's actually a very short.
On the chest.
Thanks. You're reading my mind. It's a pretty short freeze time because it's not a full batch, but the wine, of course, doesn't freeze. It stays in suspension. All alcohol just stays in suspension. One of my favorite ice creams to make around Christmas time is Grand Marnier liqueur, which is very expensive, but you're making a ice cream mix. Hold on. Ice cream mix and a bottle of Grand Marnier liqueur, which is an orange liqueur. And there's no substitute for Grand Marnier. Triple sec doesn't cut it. And so you put a whole bottle in, and you take 6 California navel oranges. Of course, I'm partial to Florida, but the navels, California, have a thicker skin, and I'm just grating off the zest again. So I have this pure white product with the taste and the aroma of the orange liqueur alcohol and the little specks of orange in there just for looks. Oh, it's great. Now this sugar won't be as good because it didn't come from Publix, right? Yeah, in fact, it's all hardened together. But a real simple recipe, 1, 1, and 1. And then what really makes it is the raspberries, because it gives it some crunch.
You're saying about the ice cream again, you optimally want to let it harden for about a day or something like that?
Yes, yeah. Dairy products enhance in flavor over the hardening phase, or just putting it in the freezer.
How cold is that?
Oh, that one. Well, let me put it this way. You could harden ice cream at 10 below if you really had 10 below. That freezer is from Sears. It'll go to 10 below, but it's designed for me to come home from the supermarket with my bags of green beans for Sadie, which are already frozen, putting them into a freezer that's just going to maintain them frozen. But if I put a 20-degree product into it and it's 10 below, it's going to warm up right away. The freezer is, because it wasn't built to remove the heat. So if I just throw a tub here, a tub there, in there, it'll harden it. So I actually use it as a hardening cabinet because I'm not loading it up with a lot of ice cream. If I was in business and I loaded it up, then I'd be in trouble. So that's why you would need a hardening cabinet. But starting out with that machine, you don't need a hardening cabinet. You go buy a Sears chest freezer, and it'll do the job for you. One little thing about business, though, that I learned, which scared me to death. One of my customers out in Wisconsin builds $1 million food establishments and does frozen custard in them. And just the night before they were to open one, a disgruntled employee that didn't get hired burned down the building. The insurance company came in. It was a no-brainer. They caught the kid. They've got the police report. The insurance company comes in and says, "You got a Sears chest freezer in here. It's not commercial. We're not going to insure you." He said, I got 600 stores. You're darn right you're going to insure me. But for the average person, they could have negated the claim because in Wisconsin, everything in a commercial establishment had to be commercial. Boy, that was scary. All right, so here we go, the 1, 1, and 1. And the gate's closed. And since it's a sugar water, I'm going to run it at full speed. And I'm there. Turn on the refrigeration. And then I've got my red raspberries. These were frozen and we thawed them. And they're really nice. They're in a bit of, are they in syrup? It says no sugar added. So it's not in syrup. This is just the raspberries. All right, I just want to make sure it didn't go in the machine. You wouldn't believe what I drop in this thing sometimes. All right, down you go. And I'm going to put it in another bag just because I have them. Again, you can't do this in any other machine. The openings aren't large enough. And this machine till the end of the year is $8,950. I think I got some raspberry on me. Ken, any questions? Okay. Excuse me? Well, President Obama says there's no inflation. But the funny thing is everybody who I buy from is doing 6 and 7% increases. Copper, steel, motors, compressors, easily 6%. So I'm going to have to go up somewhere between 4 and 6% just to keep even. That's what happens when you have inflation. But their inflation numbers, they don't include food or fuel. So when they come out with the inflation numbers, it has not included the gasoline you buy or the food you buy. And of course, those are the two items that are going up the most. So much for the political speech. Let's just see if any other things I wanted to cover. There are a lot of things I didn't cover today. One thing about making ice cream and ices in your ice cream room. Everything in here, with one exception I see, is plastic. If I drop this, it's plastic. Now, you know that if you're having wine in your dining room and you drop a wine glass, you'll find shards of glass in the kitchen, in the living room. It explodes. Now, if this was a Pyrex dish, I mean, Pyrex is pretty indestructible. It's glass. But if that broke, if I dropped that and that broke into 2 pieces, and I could put the 2 pieces back together, and I've got that machine behind me with all the guards in place, I'm going to dump everything in that machine and start over. My mind tells me very clearly there's no way a piece of glass got in there. But I'm going to vacuum the floor, I'm going to start that over, because you're in the food business. You cannot risk getting glass or foreign substances into your product. It just isn't going to happen. There's no glass anywhere near there. But I want to sleep at night. So the best way not to have this problem of dumping the product and vacuuming and everything else is don't have glass in your ice cream room, no matter what it is. I don't care if they give them to you for free. This is a real taboo. Any kind of glass in here is just not allowed. Also, I mentioned citric acid. Citric acid comes in a gallon jug. I don't have any, but it's a clear liquid. Here we go. Let's say that's a gallon of citric acid, which you could use in your Italian ice. You know what else comes in a gallon jug kind of like this? Clorox bleach. So I don't want to wake up at 2 in the morning and say, and I've been working for 9 hours making product, I'm tired, yada yada. Did I put 2 ounces of Clorox bleach in my Bordeaux sorbet, or did I put citric acid in? And I don't want to wake up at 2 in the morning and worry about which one I did. So any cleaning products that I'm using, or anything that I would never want to get in my product, Clorox bleach, cleaners, anything like that, put it in a locked cabinet or put it in a separate room. If it's not in here, then I don't have to worry about did I put in Clorox or citric acid. Those are 2 pretty simple rules, but it'll make sleeping at night a whole lot better. Let's see what else we got. Let's talk about diabetic ice cream. We diabetics are the most annoying, vocal people on earth. We walk into an ice cream parlor and say, why don't you have mint chip and sugar, no sugar added? No sugar added means they didn't add sugar. But there is sugar in the milk. There's sugar in the cream. There's sugar in the skim milk. There's sugar in the strawberries. That is not a sugar-free product, ice cream. It's got sugar in it. As a diabetic, I can harshly say you have no business being in an ice cream parlor. So get out. You know that, and your doctor told you that, but you shouldn't be there. But if you, the ice cream person, succumb to it and say, okay, I'm going to get 2 flavors of sugar-free, and I've got 10 other flavors. Those 2 flavors of sugar-free will sit there for 3, 4, 5 weeks because there aren't that many people ordering it, and they're going to come in and say, I'm tired of that flavor, I want this one. Why don't you have this one? Oh, stop whining. So I just say, listen, I'm sorry, but we are a frozen dessert business. We deal in sugar. I don't have anything for you. You can't cater to everyone. And it sounds harsh, but it's a fact of life, and it'll save you a lot of time and money. Whoops. Oh, that's coming along nicely. About the machines themselves, let's see. Well, I told you about the cylinders being thicker. Oh, we have time. I can give you a quick tour of the factory if you like. We wrap our cylinders. Your source of cold, remember with the wood machine, the source of cold here was rock salt and ice. In a modern day batch freezer, it's Freon gas circling the cylinder. Now we use copper tubing. Copper tubing is 10 times more expensive than aluminum. Everybody else uses aluminum. The problem with aluminum tubing, though it's cheap, is it develops holes in 11 years. That's how long aluminum lasts. So the whole machine is going to leak Freon gas in 11 years, and there's nothing you can do about it. So every other machine except an Emery Thompson is dead at 11 years. Emery Thompson only copper tubing. I buy a lot of copper tubing, and it's all I ever use. It's inert. 100 years from now, there won't be any pit holes in the copper tubing. I even bought a BMW once, and they spray painted the aluminum lines to the refrigeration system copper colored, just to fool you. But they know you're not going to keep the BMW 11 years. At least General Motors, it's aluminum lines. You see it. You're not going to keep the Chevy truck 11 years. So that's why we can safely say this machine will last 40 years or more. But our track record, our experience of people buying parts and all that, we know the average life is at least 40 to 45 years. Yes, Ken? I'm sorry?
Citric acid, is it just used to enhance the flavor?
Is citric acid used to enhance the flavor? No. It's used to make something more tart. If I'm trying to cut costs and instead of using a quart of lemon juice, I only want to use a half a quart of lemon juice plus 4 ounces of citric acid, I'll come up with a tart product. But the more citric acid, the more it makes your throat close. It just constricts you. You used to be able to buy citric acid at the pharmacy. I went in there a couple years ago into CVS and tried to buy some citric acid powder. And they said, can we see your driver's license? I said, sure. Show them my driver's license. Why do you want the citric acid powder? I'm making ice cream. Yeah, sure. He said, we won't sell it to you. Why not? He said, because it's used to cut crack cocaine. And so you can't buy it except through a supermarket or through a ice cream outlet. Who knew? Okay, this is going to be about ready. And this is an Italian ice, but we're going to call it a Bordeaux wine sorbet. Thanks. So let's just see what it looks like. Oh yeah, that's nice. Turn off the refrigeration, open the gate, and here comes our Bordeaux wine sorbet. Now again, this isn't a full batch, so it's not going to be a lot of product. You know, Paula and Vonda start eating this, and then they're dancing on the copier, so we try to limit how much we make. And while I get the containers ready, we'll just let a little bit of that come out. Now, you'll like this. This is a good way to end the day. You know, and if you get pulled over, just call here. Honest officer, we were just making ice cream and ices. Okay. And that's it. Let me just show the camera. Now you saw I didn't put any coloring in that. Look how beautiful that is. Isn't that nice? So come on over and try this. And you can come back for seconds until it's gone. Because I'm told it's great. Here's spoons if you need it.
Licensure to sell this is,
Excuse me?
if you were to vend this, your licensure would be
No.
different.
Wholesale, maybe. But retail, no, because just like a pastry shop who's selling a Baba rum, it's only an ingredient. Yes, it's only a movie. But, as usual, check with your health department. Of course, they're going to say no. There you go. Vanilla ice cream has quite a bit of alcohol in it. I don't know the percentage, but it's strong.
Quite a few of berries, you can still, particles are still in it.
Yes, yeah. The seeds, everything, the crunch. Malcolm Stogo, the ice cream maker, and I got in a debate about that. He said I should be straining the seeds, but I think it's like watermelon and spitting out the seeds. The seeds add to the product. It's the crunch. Ken, should we send some out to Paula and Vonda? Huh?
I sent him a note, told him it was ready, I'm ready.
Oh, well, I'll get it ready. They'll be charging through the door. Isn't that good?
Now, this would be a nice dessert at a nice fine restaurant.
Yes, wouldn't it? And that's why I was thinking also making it as an alcohol-free would be a good addition too. And there's no, I mean, it would freeze the same.
Who's that square line
Yes.
Do you have to have a special dipping cabinet for those to fit in, or will they fit the standard?
They'll fit in the standard dipping cabinet, the Rhino and square boxes. You just won't be able to use your round circles that are used to hold them in place. So it won't look as pretty, but you'll have more tubs that you can serve from. I mean, you're adding, on 16-hole cabinet, you're adding 4 more flavors. So that's pretty nice.
You're trying to sell us kids.
No, no.
I wouldn't like it anyway.
Yeah. I have there was a customer up in Connecticut, I think it was around the Milford area. He was the first one to do it. And he had 2 problems with making liquor ice creams and sorbets. One was they cost more. And it is the kiss of death to have 2 signboards. I was down in Islamorada 30 years ago, and this lady was buying ice cream from 2 different suppliers. So the vanilla was $1.65 a scoop, and the maple walnut was $2.10. So you say, oh, I'll take a scoop of vanilla and maple walnut, and then you're going, well, wait a minute, how come this isn't $1.65 times 2? And you end up leaving angry. So this guy had the problem of the liquor ice creams costing more, and the parents don't want their 6-year-olds coming in and buying, wine ice cream. So he put up a sign that said, he was the first one to do it, adults only ice cream, you must be over 21 years of age. And I said, how's that working out for you? And he said, well, Steve, go stand over there and watch. So it was around 3:30. First one to walk in is a 16-year-old. And he's got his chest puffed out, and he's standing up a little tall. He says, I'd like some of that Grand Mariner ice cream. And the guy goes, you 21? Let's see your license. It's in the car. I'll go get it. And he disappears. There's a knock at the back door. And back then, I was a younger man. And it was someone my age now. And he's knocking on the door. Hey, Phil, give me some of that Grand Marnier ice cream before my wife comes back. She's over shopping. And that was the type of people that were coming in and buying it, and it was great. And he goes, oh, fine, Phil. Yeah, I'll give it to you. So, yeah, you'd have to check with your local health laws, but on a retail basis, it's less difficult than wholesale. Wholesale is a different ballgame. You have to account for everything that goes in there. There is an interesting thing. I think I'm right about this, but labeling on products. It goes back to a lawsuit years ago between Worcestershire. You know Worcestershire sauce? Worcestershire, the law said you've got to label your product and all the ingredients. And Worcestershire and Heinz was trying to find out Worcestershire's formula. And so Worcestershire took them to court and said, no, this family proprietor has been in the family for 150 years and we're not giving up the formula. And the judge agreed with them and said, okay, then you don't have to list every ingredient, but you do have to say this sauce contains, well, in the case of ice cream, milk, cream, sugar, skim milk, natural and artificial flavorings. And that, by law, is all you'd have to do. So you could have the same label for a whole wide variety of products. That's the law. The reality is, in big time, you do list everything on there. Nutritional labeling, absolutely not necessary, unless you claim a medical claim for it. If you say by eating this sorbet you're going to lose weight, you have to then list everything. But the reality is we all read labels now. I even do it. I mean, we go into the supermarket and we read what's in it. And so it's to a selling advantage to list what you have on there so that people can see this really is made from the best stuff on earth. So it's interesting how labeling has moved along. I'm going to take that out to Vonda and Paula, and I'll be right back. Vonda said she didn't want any? Okay, then we'll freeze it.
profit margins we're looking at, say, let's just say the ice cream on an average. What are the 3-gallon tubs selling for, and what is the cost of production of one?
Well, Haagen-Dazs is a good example, and they're selling for about, anywhere from $34 to $38 for a 3-gallon tub. And it would cost me to make that same quality, probably about $16. Now you think, well, Haagen-Dazs is a much bigger company, economies of scale and all that, they're going to be able to do it cheaper. Well, the case is actually no, they're not going to be able to make it cheaper, because dairy products are one of the few things sold that are highly regulated by the federal government. There are price supports and prices set on dairy products, so when you go from state to state, there's not much difference in the cost of a gallon of milk. And so if you're buying milk, cream, sugar, and skim milk, and it's costing Hershey the same amount per gallon of cream that you're paying, or close to it, they're going to get a little bit of a discount, but not much. So you're making it at about the same price as the big guys. But what it's going to yield you in profit, I couldn't say. It depends on the market. I've had only one big business failure in 40 years of all my customers. I'm sure there's some minor ones that went out, but this one was just totally my mistake, because back then I would, now I do it over the phone and Skype, and I really get to know my customers. But this was one when it was not the IOC, it was the predecessor to the IOC. It was a 2-speed machine. He bought a 2-speed machine, which meant he was going to make a Haagen-Dazs type ice cream. He was going to open in Connecticut. Well, all of Connecticut's wealthy. Well, all of Connecticut's wealthy except for a retirement community. And everybody was on a fixed income. So he comes in 1970 with a $4 a gallon ice cream when everybody else is at $1.49, and he didn't last a month, because people on fixed income are going to buy quantity, not quality. I mean, they'd like to have the quality, but there's a cutoff with price. It's kind of like, another similar thing along that line. I got into a discussion with Panza and Sons up in New Jersey, Vito Panza, and we were having a heated debate over all natural or organic or regular ice cream. And I was saying organic was the coming thing and it's going to be great and all that. He said, it's not going to happen. So it was quite a debate, and it turns out Vito was right. And here's where he was right. Yes, I'm changing my eating habits to where I now have a piece of organic lettuce on a Big Mac. I'll concede that. But as far as making organic ice cream, the problem is if a regular head of lettuce is 89 cents and an organic head of lettuce is $1.39, I'll pay the $1.39 for it. But if the regular lettuce is 89 and the organic is $2.19, I'm not going to spend the money. It's too much of a spread between the two. And since we don't have that many organic dairies right now, if ice cream is selling for $3 a scoop retail and organic is going to cost me to be $4.50, too big a spread for people to buy. I mean, I'll certainly go all natural where I can. I mean, I like the idea of all natural flavors. But organic means that those cows haven't been on any other grass for 5 years other than not treated with chemicals. And that's expensive, and people aren't able to do it. Walmart advertised a year and a half ago that they were going to go big into organic, and they were going to be buying this up and stuff like that. And if you don't follow advertising, that's gone nowhere. You don't hear Walmart advertising organic because some of their sources were dubious. We're buying it. They're bringing in the heads of lettuce from China, and they're from organic fields. Well, can you prove that? No. So I mean, I have a lot of people who would like to do organic, and I would price versus ability. Now, in New York, we've got